Hello developers, let's start developing. So we're at that time of the year again. It's the 1st of December 2023, which means there is a fresh new advent of code running. Let's see what happens with it this year. I am already logged in. Let's see the this year's event. And task 1 is on. First, this is my first time that I'm looking at it, so I will just take a look at it first and I'll try to solve it. Hopefully I will succeed. This year I managed to do a little bit of changes of my writing setup, so to say. And I also plan to do something else as well. Here are some Rust and some Python codes that I was playing around. I know nothing about Python and Rust, but I will want to use the advent of code to actually learn about something. But let's get back to the trebuchet. Okay, trebuchets are cool in general. Yeah, 50 stars, weather machine. They're loading you into a trebuchet. Okay. Amended by okay, some intern messed up the input. Specific calibration value on each line, combining the first digit and the last digit to form a single. So this should be 1 2, this should be 3 8, this should be 1 5, I guess, and this should be 7 7 because there's a single digit, which means the first one is the last one. We need to get the sum of all of those values. So, as always, I'm gonna start by working on the demo input. So, which means that we already have something that we're gonna read the lines. And for part one, well, first of all, let's just try to output the input to see if we have our input correctly, if my engine works okay. Seems to be working. So now we have two separate tasks for each of these thingies. So this is not an input, this is a list of all the strings where we need to extract the first and the last number. So we're gonna use a map, of course. So each line we're gonna need to map it into an object that has the first digit. Okay, we don't have to do that, and this is gonna be an object. Sure, there are faster way to actually do this, but I want to be kind of proper. I want to have uh, control of what the data is. So I will transfer the input into an array of objects that have the first and last properties, and then I can inspect that if I have any bugs. This is a simple task, so I might not even have bugs. Line dot index of, oh, this is a string, so we have an index of. We need to do an index of, and this has a search string that is constant, and we might want to have to do a search for a regex. Yeah, that would be better. Basically find a number, but how will we this find the last number? Well, let's get to that part when we get to that part. Or we can just say, we can just change this a bit. Let's have a code thing. Let's say line chars are split the line. So this is an array of strings right now. And inside the chars dot we have find. And since I guess I'm not using the latest and greatest. What am I using as a node? Oh, yes. Because right now there is this method, but this method only appears in recent things of JavaScript, recent versions. So let's try if we can change that as well. Okay. And yes, if somebody at this moment thinks, oh, this guy is overcomplicating it, yes, I am. Let's see. Yay! Now we have find and we have find last. But what we will need to find? We will need to find the character that matches something like this, that matches a certain regex. And since we have find last, that basically searches from the other end, we're just gonna do that. And now we'll just say console log first and last, return an empty object just so we're returning something. It never bodes well to return nothing from a map, but this is just some code that we're using to actually see whether we get the correct date. 1 and 2, 3 and 8, 1 and 5, 7 and 7. Seems to be working. So now instead of returning that, I will actually return an object that has the first and the last properties, and I'm gonna convert these to numbers. And I'm gonna use a quick and dirty JavaScript trick. So we're not gonna be calling to number on them. And I want to emphasize on TypeScript that this is actually will always be the case. The input said so. You should seldomly use this trick in TypeScript to say, oh, I know this can be undefined, but let's imagine that it won't be. So we will have strings and then we will have them as numbers. Let's see if this thing works. So now I will just need to first and lasts. Let's see, just console log first and lasts. This is a horrible name, but it's a local name, so it is kind of okay. And you can see that they are yellow because they are numbers. So what we need to do now, let's go back to the thingy. We need to mush them together by forming a single two-digit number. Okay. So now we need to do fls dot sum them up using some mapping, but the mapping is definitely not this. It will be first times 10 plus the last one. So we're making a two-digit number out of that. And then we're just returning the result. Again, the first mapping can be done in a much more succinct way, but I don't want to because I want to be as clear as possible. And then we're doing that, and if I manage to save the code file, this will return $142, and we were supposed to get 142. That's great. Now let's run the full input. The full input says that the result will be 55,621. Let's see if this is anywhere near close to correct, whether we're getting the first start for 2023. Yes, we have a star. Continuing on to part 2. The calculation isn't quite right. It looks like some of the digits are actually spelled out with letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 also count as valid digits. Aha. So, okay, this example doesn't count, but in this example is 219. This is not 1, 1. This is 2 and 9. 8 to 3. Yes, we can do a simple search and replace on this, and I think this would be the most effective, even if it's not the most efficient way. So, what we need to do for part 2? We'll again have the lines, and we need to do some replacements as well. I will define first a replacement map, and that will take us from a string to actually another string. And we can say, okay, the map is faster, but this time I'm actually gonna use something more JavaScripty. That's a record that goes from a string to a string, and that can be defined in line, so I can say 1 is 1, and definitely Copilot helps me here, but it could have generated all of them. Fortunately, I don't think we have any zeros in the input as it's not spelled out. So now I can go with the strings. Const modified input will be input.slice. Since this is our strings, we can just do that. And now we're gonna write some very run-of-the-mill code. We're gonna loop through the modified input. It's strings. We are getting the element, and if we have one of the keys. Okay, let's write a stupid code, a bit of stupid code. Let's just get a list of keys. These are the numbers of the names of the numbers, so that will be the actually the keys of this. So this will give us an array which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And yeah, we're gonna do this, and I think that we actually want to call this method that will replace all occurrences, because I think we don't have an input over there where we have multiple thingies. So I'm talking about something like this. A replace might change the first one but not the second one, and we want both of them change. And note that here we have 16, and this is not supposed to be 6. This is just 6 because teen is not a name of a number. We're not going that far. Yeah. So inside n of all of the, I don't like the for each method because it's unpure. So we're gonna say an index, name index inside the names of the number, and then we can say element. Yeah, that is okay. we have a nested for loop, which is not very efficient, but it is kinda clear. We actually don't need this. We're gonna write it yet another way. We're gonna use a for off loop. And we're gonna use a for off loop here because we don't actually care about the indices. Yes, for each string of the modified input and for each name out of num names, now this says we can do a regex place. And we can actually say that this is a string array and start with an empty string, and we're just gonna loop the input. This might work. I don't like that we're using a regex here, but we can just use the name and replace all. The regex is that the regexes have actually replace all functionality built in. So after we're done, log the modified input and return 0 so that we are making TypeScript happy. Let's see what happens now. We have our input and we forgot an extra brace somewhere. Let's see if we modified our code somehow. We actually did not. Two one nine, 219. I have 3 of those. Yes, I think that we did a stupid. Uh, oh, yes, we're just inputting everything for everything, and that's not something what we want to do. You can see that we checked the 2 and we checked the 9, but we actually have 9 versions of this. Yeah, Copilot, you kind of messed me up. And what we want to do, we want to let's say let result equals string. And here we're gonna add the result inside of it. And in meantime, we're just gonna say the result is equal to the result with those things replaced. So we're gonna do a bit of looping on the same one. So we have our string, we're gonna check if it has one, O-N-E string, replace it with 1, and so on and so forth. Not ideal, could be better, but it kind of works. It might work. We'll see. Two one nine 16. It might be correct. 823. Oh, this is a complicated case. Is it because this can be is this 8WO or is this AG 82? There should be something in the specification that actually says this. Oh, yep. So this is definitely the first case and we're doing it in the second way. So we need to go the other way around. Because what I'm doing here, I'm just looping through this. And it was very nice that we had such a case because this is an obvious bug that we have here. I'm going one by one, so 2 will always get processed before 8. So I will always have this as this. And I'm supposed to have it like this. So we need to find the first one and then replace it with that thing. And I might want to use a regexes for this because they are kinda useful. Or we can use a find first thing. So instead of searching for all of them, we can say inside the string, yeah, we're gonna need the result as well. Result dot find index. Oh, let's make this into an array so it's better, not split on everything. Or not. Or we can indeed have a regex. For a first time, this is a fun thing to do. So we have basically the regex is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. And then we have the input is this. And you can see that the matches are correct. So the first match is 8, and then, and only then, it starts matching up. So if we, let's make sure that we're using the JavaScript engine. So if this matches in this way, we are golden. Let's build this regex. And actually, I'm gonna do this in 2 times, so num names will still be the object keys of the map, and then I will just use this as a num regex. This way it will make the replace function clearer, and I can say string dot replace search value is the num regex, and the second one is for the match, return the map of match. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't need the num names in any way, so we're just doing this match on a string and then change that with the appropriate number. And this again returns a string. which is the result, and then we need to add it to the model. Let's see if this works now. Called with a non-global regex argument. Well, that's something I didn't know, that it's supposed to be a global. It makes sense, but I just had no idea. Result part 1 is NaN. Yeah. So 823, 1. Let's check the numbers with the numbers in the. So we have 29, 83, 13, 24, 42, 14, and 76. 14 and 76. Okay, seems like our parsing part is done. And now, and I might have mentioned before, but I will mention it again. I want my parts to be as independent as possible. So here we have this function that will actually run the input, that will run the mapping. I will extract this as a separate function and use it in part 1 and part 2. I won't reuse the results from part 1 into part 2, but I can definitely extract this into a function. I think this is the thing I want. Only it's not a new local. No, I wanted to extract it into a function in module scope. And that is map first last. Let's call it. And the map first last function is basically this. I will just reorder it in the file so that it appears in front of this. I will just change it into an arrow function because that name looks better a bit. It's a style thing, it's a taste thing. So we're just, this thing returns an array of first and last that are numbers. So that means that if we have this thing now, we can just call that on the modified input, and again we can return the sum of that. Let's see if that happens for the test input. Note that the test input for the second part is not valid input for the test input for the first part, because we have inputs like this one which actually has no numbers. So the test input gave us not a number, but the test input for part 2 gave us 281, which is the correct value. So that means that now, once more, we can use the proper input to see if this thing actually gives us a result. So it's actually 53,500 something. And let's see if we get that coveted second star. No, we have a bug. Okay, that means we have something that is not working. So now we will need to do some debugging. That's exciting. But this video has gone long enough. We'll do that in part 2.